Hi everybody, welcome to the channel and welcome to another video where I'm going to share with you some images and discuss some of the images from a day in London on the 21st of September where we visited the Japan Matsuri in Trafalgar Square, London. And the first thing to share with you is that, as I quite often do unfortunately on this channel, from the fibro side of things, I was really struggling. A week or so before we went to London, I'd had a really high temperature, but in my normal way, being apart from fibro and central sensitivity, fit and healthy, was over it in sort of like 48 hours. Then I was dog sitting for dog sitting the adorable little Simba that you'll have seen in some of my shorts before. Here he is again, no apologies for the cuteness. And yeah, that was what I've called pleasurable overload. A very pleasurable experience, but a lot for my system to cope with. So by the time I'd got through that, and I knew this was on the horizon the following weekend going into London with a group of friends from the photographic club, which is always nice, I was really struggling to function more than I have done in the past. However, I knew that I needed some time for me with friends. Having been unwell, etc., I hadn't seen people for a little while, and with the dog sitting. And I knew that in terms of my own function and well-being, etc., that some time with friends, trip into London's always nice, however much I am struggling with function, but it takes me, and it took me, a long time to get going on this particular day. But I know that once I'm there and I've got my camera in my hand and I've taken a few sort of test shots to sort of get the lie of the land and just absorbed what's going on around me, just pacing myself, is that pacing word for fibro, that things would start to fall into place. Yeah, I'm going to share with you the images from that event. First though, the kit that I took, we had to travel light because on the, not just because it said on the website about small bags only, A4 size, we were assuming just, you know, that way, not that way. Also in terms of being in London, I don't want to have to keep taking my backpack off of my back and lifting it, etc. Plus the sensitivity in my spine gets aggravated and my lower spine literally goes numb and affects the movement of my legs. So it was my sling bag. Now for street photography, you would quite often, or I would quite often, just take my 50mm lens. You've seen me do that before with Milton Keynes, etc. If I'm just shooting street, then this is a great little lens, very light, shoots wide open if I need it to in low light, and yeah, just a good all-round lens. 50mm on my Canon 40D crop sensor shoots at about 80, but you get used to what your lens will see, and I know how to shoot with that. However, this event, I had lessons that I'd learned from actually attending Chinese New Year in Trafalgar Square. We didn't know how busy this was going to be. Was it going to be like Chinese New Year? And actually it was busy, but not as packed in Trafalgar Square as Chinese New Year was. I also took my 75 to 300mm lens, because I know that when it gets busy, if you've watched my Chinese New Year video, I'll link to it below in the description, that actually having this for some extra reach at the 300mm, equivalent of 480 on my crop sensor, actually helps pick out some shots in the crowd. Also from my own movement point of view, in a busy environment, my system, my brain struggles with too much movement in a small or in a confined space. So I have to pace myself, pick a spot, just stand for a bit, see what shots there are, have a look around, where am I going to move to next. It really is a matter of it's an irony actually with the severe brain fog that you actually feel like you're doing a lot more thinking with fibro. Excuse me. Because you've then got to assess where you're going to next, how you're going to move, are my legs going to work, and what's it going to take for me to move? Is there, is there enough room for me to do that? So this lens gives me a lot of flexibility, and that proved to be the case here too. So when we got there, I quickly knew that switching from the 50 to the 75 to 300 was the thing to do. I think I only used that for a few shots when we were walking. We went to a second location, which I'll do in a second video from the day. And I only used this while we were walking to the tube station to get some shots as we were walking up the street. And that is where that comes in handy. This has got far too much reach. Even at 75, I think it's about 110 mil equivalent. That is zooming in far too much. This gives me what I need and what I know I like to see in my street photography as I'm walking through locations. Anyway, so that's the kit that I took. We did have a brilliant day. We were at the Matsuri for a couple of hours before moving on. So yeah, here are my images, and I'll talk you through some of my favorites and some of my thoughts as I did them. Now, one of the things that you'll have seen in my recent Steam Gala video from Leighton Buzzard Railway, and would have heard me mention there, is that I have adapted some of the preset recipes, the custom looks in camera that come in the camera, I should say. Come on, brain. So I've taken one of those presets in the camera and I've adjusted it slightly to give a look and a feel that I like. So playing with the contrast, the amount of saturation, and the color tone as well. And it's got pretty close to, if not almost there, with the look and feel that I have from using Darktable to process my images. So what I've now done is created a second version of that in a custom setting, and I have what I've used here at Matsuri, a high contrast version with some deeper shadows, and then I have a lower contrast version which is closer to the desaturated look you'll have seen in some of my previous videos from events this year. That gives me the flexibility, if I'm really struggling and I don't want to sit at the computer for too long, to just use the images out of camera, and I can just en masse, if I want to just tweak the shadows a little bit more contrast, I can do that in the Canon software. That really alleviates things in terms of processing. There are times where I will do it in Darktable, maybe because I want to do some different types of crops, create some duplicates, etc. There's a bit more flexibility in that respect using Darktable. But I've also created this higher contrast look in Darktable now that I'm getting pretty close to what I'm getting in camera. So I've got the two options, and it just depends on my function and how much I want to do with those images to create what I saw or see in my mind when I'm shooting them. This is an interesting abstract. This is at the stage area, and when I looked above what was going on, I noticed it was a reflective surface above the people on the stage. So it was a no-brainer for me to try and get that. Now I've flipped this so that it looks that it's the right way up. But it's a nice little abstract. The colours are in there. We've got a spot of blue in the middle with the red around it. And I just like the look and feel of that, and you can see the supports from the stage that are sort of in part of the image there. And also the sort of the ripple effect of the image. I think we'd spent about an hour or so wandering around, and given how much I'd struggled to get functioning that morning, and taking the shots, the busy environment, etc., I knew I had to sit down. So we crossed the road and went for a coffee, and we sat and did what is termed in street photography terms a bit of fishing, watching people go by, see what sort of shots we could get while we sat outside the coffee shop and relaxed. We then crossed back over into Trafalgar Square, and instead of going back into the arena in the square itself, we decided just to walk around the edge, because you can get some, and I've learnt this from Chinese New Year, you can get some interesting shots by walking along the path around the outside and looking down in where the stalls are set up. And on the side that we were walking were the food stalls. So we stood around there, and with the light coming in, there were some interesting shots of the people buying from the stalls as well as the people working on the stalls. From this location as well, when they did the second parade around the square, we were in a good position to capture them coming round the top of the square and then back down the steps where we were standing. Gave us a better vantage point, particularly as I was shooting with the bigger lens. And I was able to zoom in and get some nice details of the people enjoying themselves as they were going about their duties. Then completely out of the blue, something we weren't expecting and hadn't seen mentioned anywhere. I don't know if it was part of the event, but it was a very welcome surprise. Lancaster bomber did a couple of loops around Trafalgar Square. I was absolutely overloaded by then, but I did still have my 75 to 300mm lens on my camera, thankfully. Otherwise I would have got a dot in the sky. But I wanted to capture it in context. Now, it may not be crystal clear, the plane in these images that I've selected, but I wanted to show it anyway because it was part of the day. There's no bangers here or anything like that. But I wanted to get it in context. We've got cranes, buildings, etc. I didn't want to just show the Lancaster in the sky. I wanted to give it some context that it was flying over an urban location, a city location. And this is a shot as it flew round for the second time that I was praying that I would be able to capture. I haven't moved the plane in post-processing. Believe me, the way my brain functions, I don't even go there with moving objects and cloning, etc. So I was grateful that I think this was at 75mm, but I could get a shot of it alongside Nelson on top of the column. do hope you've enjoyed seeing these images and hearing the explanation of the day. There is no video because of my function on the day, and I wanted to focus, pun intended, purely on the still images as a record of the day and time with friends. I guess as time goes on, and if I ever can get an action camera, that will change. So I can strap it to my chest and just carry on as normal. But having to do it on a phone and with a camera is a little bit more tricky, especially with my coordination sometimes not being what it used to be. Or so I was going to say should be, but what it used to be is probably a better phrase, more constructive phrase to use. Anyway, thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this, please like, and if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to help raise awareness of the channel, and I will see you in the next video.